Good afternoon, listeners. This is Dave Downs again, back with another podcast for the RASI team. We are talking today. I'm actually really excited because we're kind of stepping out of our comfort zone a little bit in terms of who we typically have on these podcasts. And I think that's really great. Today, I am joined by Danielle Taff, who is a junior accountant here at RASI. Danielle, good afternoon. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm doing super well. How was your 4th of July? Did you have a good one?
I did. Yeah, we spent the day at the pool. It was awesome. How about
Oh,
you?
right on. Yeah, we were out of town. We were doing some traveling as a family. Had a little family reunion, so it was great.
Nice.
I am excited because, like I said, so much of what we focus on is really geared around operators, and not that this conversation is going to deviate too far from that, but I really want to kind of shift gears and get a few other departments' input on some of the really valuable resources that are important for our clients and for every restaurant that is out there. Danielle, I'm really excited today to get a few of your input, a little bit of your feedback as to what things you find are most valuable for our clients. Let's jump right in. From the accounting perspective, what are a few of those things that you find are most valuable for a restaurant to really be focused on now more so than ever?
So Dave, in the past year, we've really noticed clients being successful with the weekly reporting, period end review process, and having some budgeting and forecasting in place so that we can anticipate what's going to happen in the future.
I think that's really fascinating, and I know we're kind of on the heels of this pandemic. Or at least the more and more I go out, I see more and more people out and about. So I know that this is kind of behind us. Aside from staffing issues and stuff, how successful were the greater client base of the RASI department? Did we see a little bit more success than maybe industry standards out there?
We definitely did, Dave. With weekly reporting, we were able to catch some of those snags that people were running into. They could catch, overstaffing right away and rectify that before the next week. They could get the schedule fixed so that they weren't overstaffed for those periods that they were low because of COVID.
I totally understand what you're saying, and right now, the staffing shortage that is presenting national problems out there, the days of overstaffing seem kind of like a dream for most restaurant operators. So it's encouraging to see that. In addition,
Right. Yeah.
as we kind of drill into that weekly reporting, what are some of those super valuable tools that are vital for any restaurant to really keep focused on and to pay attention to?
Having weekly reporting allows the client to spot those inaccuracies, and stay on the ball like we had just talked about. It allows us to, mostly with staffing and purchases, we can get ready for the next week right away rather than waiting for the end of the period um, to look at all that stuff. Because then, if you are over purchasing in the first week of the period, you're not going to find out until the end of the period. And you're already a week into the next period before you can make that correction. With weekly reporting, we can get that corrected before the next week. And then the last 3 weeks of the period, you're good to go.
No doubt. And I think that timeliness is really important. How soon after our clients submit over all of the information from the accounting perspective, are you getting those financial statements put back up for them so they can review and make decisions on?
It's our promise to have a 24-hour turnaround once the client gets everything submitted to us. We also are reviewing those financials every week, so we're having that industry expert eye looking at those reports as well. And so we can give the client some feedback on things that they may not notice is off.
Weekly auditing, talk me through that a little bit more. Do you have any stories? I love stories.
So actually, yeah, we do. One of the main things that we look at, well, not a main thing, but an item that we do look at is we look at credit card tips payable.
Hmm.
A lot of our clients do run into some issues with this. They want to pay their employees credit card tips in cash and et cetera. And this could cause discrepancies and it could cause over or underpayments of employees. And so I have actually, at least once a week, I catch a client over or underpaying their employees through credit card tips because they have an educational opportunity in the payroll department to figure out what the best process is for them in their restaurant to keep an accurate credit card payable GL.
That's amazing. And you guys are auditing that every single week?
We are, yeah.
I love that. Such a good point in that weekly financials and primarily the P&L, as you mentioned, keeping an eye on labor and purchases and all the cost of goods is so important. But things like credit card tips payable can really go sight unseen unless you're looking at the balance sheet. So having that other layer of kind of oversight and accountability is really valuable. Let's kind of move on and start to kind of take a little broader step out. What's that next thing? I think you mentioned that period end review process and really diving in at the end of a fiscal period to be able to analyze. I want to kind of pick your brain again from that accounting perspective. What kinds of things are you guys looking for? What kinds of things is your department noticing? And then I've got to wrap it up with a story at the end. So give me three kind of examples there.
All right. So we do a period end review process for our clients, and that allows us to kind of comb through the balance sheet and the P&L and compare any specific client to the industry standards, but as well as their themselves. You know, we want our clients to continually improve their business and keep going up and up. So having us look at the period end review process, we can help our clients figure out where they need the education, you know, just what they aren't really paying attention to because they don't know that they need to in order to stay afloat in the industry. We look at the balance sheet. A lot gets overlooked by our clients, but that's one of the most important documents that they should be looking at because it shows their actual cash. And we have seen clients who look like they have enormous liabilities, but really they've just been coding invoices wrong, you know? And so we're able to clean that up for them and do some journal entries and get their accounts looking good again once we put their eye on it.
Two things I love that you said in there. First and foremost, education, because I think that's such a valuable part. In that it's not meant to be a tough conversation necessarily. It's, hey, here's what happened. Here's how we can correct this and fix this. But most importantly, here's how we can prevent this from happening again in the future. That education side of it, I think, is a really valuable part of that puzzle. And what's missing in a lot of cases, people are afraid of things that they don't understand maybe fully or don't have a full grasp. And we're not asking everyone to be accounting wizards and amazing restaurant operators and a great chef and all of those same things at the exact same time. So I love that you said that. The second thing that you said in there that really kind of caught my eye or caught my ear, I should say, was really talking about how stretched thin everybody is right now. Those labor shortages are extending all the way up, and owners that I talk to almost every day are definitely pulling shifts. They're helping out. They're in the kitchen. They're running the host stand. They're doing all of these things. So having that other layer of oversight again provides that peace of mind that things are not going to get out of control. And if something does start to get a little haywire, we've got that education side to help get it corrected as soon as possible. I love those couple points, but I've got to ask for a story. Tell me a really good period end review that maybe you've done over the last year from that education point, and you don't have to name the client or anything like that, but give me an example of how that process kind of plays out because I love these stories from our clients.
Dave, I have run into, so speaking back to clients that I've seen who it looks like they have a huge liability on their balance sheet, but in reality, they had just been recording their payments incorrectly to that liability. So their payments weren't being recorded against the liability and lowering that liability.
Got
And
it.
so, had that not been caught, they could have gone year after year looking like they had a $400,000 liability when in reality, it had been paid off for a couple months,
And such a good point. In your experience over the last year, were clients able to get, and I'm asking this question honestly because I don't check out a whole lot of our balance sheets each and every day, but were clients able to get a little bit closer to caught up, or are we seeing some higher balances, actual balances on balance sheets? Is that something that people have had to kind of extend a little bit of debt and try and keep that moving out so that they can keep the restaurant solvent?
I've actually noticed with a lot of our clients, the clients that do pay attention to their balance sheet, they
Hmm.
are able to keep those balances low and
Love that.
accurate, especially if
Such
they're looking at their weekly reports as well. So the weekly reporting helps them keep their eye on it, but then the period end review process helps us, put in those educational opportunities anywhere we can.
I love that because I think it really does speak to being able to see regular reporting, but then have that education piece behind there to understand what's going on and know some of those best practices and that we can help you make those course corrections and improvements over time. Let's shift down to kind of the third point and kind of pull all this together. And I imagine as you were putting together these bullet points that we're going to talk through today, it kind of did this natural progression. First, we talked a little bit about weekly reporting and the importance of those documents and being able to review those, and then tying that together with a period end review of any point or frame of time, so that we can tie everything together and have that good solid review. But now we're going to kind of shift gears a little bit into what are the strategies that come out of all of this review? What kinds of things do we recommend for a client to help keep the restaurant moving in the right direction? And that was your third point that you made earlier.
Yeah, so I've always said the closer of an eye you have on the money on your money, the more money you have.
Hmm.
And that's where budgeting and forecasting comes in. I even recognize this for myself doing a personal budget for my household. I had hundreds of extra dollars every month once I actually figured out what I was spending my money on. And I've seen that with so many of our clients. Once they implement that budget, they can realize where they're over purchasing on items that they may not need, and once they get that roped in, they can really they might be able to add that premium item on the menu that they've been wanting to add but haven't because it has an expensive, ingredient. And so I've really noticed once you get your eye on your money, it just keeps going up from there.
It's so crazy to say, to put a constraint on something, budgeting as an example, to wrap your arms around constraining items in some ways provides so much more freedom in a lot of other ways. You're exactly right. By having that budget in place and really looking at budget versus actual with regularity, you're able to identify where there is opportunity, but you have to look at it. And that's the really important part. Where I want to take this part of the conversation is the difficulty in budgeting and forecasting, not only last year when a pandemic broke out on a global scale, but now as the recovery is kind of getting underway. What kinds of things are you seeing in restaurant clients in terms of how they're approaching their budget? How are we seeing that change as to how maybe they have done that in the past? Are they looking at sales trends in a different way? Are they really focusing on different things? And I just kind of like a little feedback from you on that.
I really praise our clients because I know that they saw that a pandemic was coming and that was going to be really hard on the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
And so they really buckled down and they figured out what they needed to do in order to stay afloat. And that was to make a budget and stick to it. And really reel in those menu items that weren't working out and, get their money where it needs to go.
Such a valuable point, and I know that through other departments here, the client advisory department, we can help provide that assistance in being able to write a budget and looking at point of sales trends and identify where things are headed, and be able to assist with that. So again, even on the budgeting and forecasting, we're coming back to that education piece, which is such a valuable and vital component of what we're offering to our clients and to the industry as a whole. Danielle, we're almost wrapping up here. The last point that I wanted to make is I think it's really valuable to understand what really the goal may be in terms of being able to utilize any system and look at weekly reporting and be able to review some sort of period frame of time, being able to look then at budgeting and forecasting as a tool to help you achieve goals and understand where the money's coming from and going to. What's the end game? What is that final goal that we're really trying to help present for our clients?
The final goal is to be able to have you in your restaurant and not looking at all these reports all the time. And so we are here to save you time and money.
I love that. Danielle Taff, Junior Accountant with RASI, thank you so much for your time today. I hope you have a great rest of the afternoon, and we will talk to you again soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for having me, Dave.